being able to arrest him without any sort of legal repercussion, in a sense where you're arresting political opponents, because he hasn't declared his next run, you can attack him now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they want him not to be president, right?
But here's my question, because there's a lot of things that have come out. One of the persecutors that have signed off on the raid is a Epstein lawyer. It wasn't an Epstein lawyer, but like he kind of, when Epstein was in trouble,
right,
he recused himself of the case, which gave Epstein immunity basically. After that, those charges, they were dropped because he and you could only walk away from a case, by the way, if you're implicated with it, some sort of bias. So this guy was a friend of Epstein.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe Epstein wasn't as bad as they say he was. Who knows? Maybe Epstein was like a good guy.
You think so?
No, I don't think that.
I highly doubt
I have
that.
no idea. I actually don't know. I actually have no idea.
Yeah.
No, very bad man, very bad man. I don't know if you guys know about this,
but it's like this real quick, Demetrius, like it seems like all these quote unquote good men are connected with this bad man, and all these quote unquote good men aren't speaking about this.
Who are you talking about, Serge?
Yeah, who would you?
I'm talking about like Bill Gates is a good man, right? Like he created Microsoft. Hey guys, this is Wealth Wednesdays, session number 11. We're talking oil and commodities, but right now we're talking current events. Okay, and then we're gonna get into that oil commodities. We're gonna talk about the markets. We're talking about a little bit of politics right now. Offline, I hit record and we were in that conversation. So that's just what we're talking about right now. We were recording, guys. Okay. But yeah, like, okay, going back to it, like Bill Gates would be considered like a good guy, right? Like Microsoft, Melinda Gates Foundation, right? All those good things.
I don't know, the arbitrary good and bad. I don't know if that exists. I use Windows computers all the time, but Bill Gates seems to be, I don't know, he seems to be holding some odd beliefs.
Right.
And I don't know what he's up to, but I don't know if I'd say he's a good guy.
Bill Clinton's a good guy, right? Like, yeah, he had an affair or whatever, but that's pretty bad. But like in the world,
that's a personal affair, though. That's a personal affair, though. So I don't care. He was president. It wasn't his job to marry or not marry or date or not date. That's a personal thing between him and his wife that we can respect, right?
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton. So I don't care if he was not faithful to his wife. It wasn't his job. He wasn't getting paid by the American people to be faithful or unfaithful to his wife. I think he did a lot of other things that were questionable while he was in office, right? And same thing while his wife was part of the Obama administration, with some of the information she knew and kind of destroyed, or not destroyed. What was the technical term? Bleached?
Redacted?
Bleached. She bleached stuff. So.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Bleach washed, something like that.
Hard drives, emails.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of corruption. Yeah, take it back to Clinton. That was when the impeachment was weaponized against him, like purely political. He lied in it was in Congress, and that was not allowed, but he lied about something that didn't really affect America. It was more of a personal issue. So that was kind of a politically motivated.
I'm just saying
attack.
that's another good guy on the Epstein list. That's all I'm saying. That's my point, right? Like,
got it, sir.
Well-respected public figure, right? Like,
I don't know if the
good
Clintons were
schools.
well-respected.
Well, you have to be, to get into like those positions of power in the United States. Don't you have to have, like, you must, no?
I think
unless they're just like
appointed. Tool. I think fear is a very powerful tool.
Right. And we see it in the stock market, right? Like, this is when we had max fear.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In the media, and like, oh, the economy, like, inflation's never going to stop, blah, blah, blah. They're going to hike rates 1,000%. Economy's going to go into recession, tech layoffs, right? Like just a whole bunch of fear-inducing headlines, news articles, and stories. And what I find and we've talked about this many times, what I find awesome is that the S&P is up 15, 16%. since that time. And it looks like it's actually gonna go higher. Right? Like it looks like this is, okay, fine. Maybe we get to the top of the range. Remember we talked about this so long ago, guys? We said, hey, we're probably bottoming out here. We're gonna go up to the top of this range probably, and then we'll revisit and see what happens. I'm pretty sure I drew this exact same thing out months ago.
Another nickel in the Sergio was right char. The
Oh, bro,
predictions
you
are
wanna-
coming true.
Oh, you want to see a big one?
The little flow rate
Yes,
on that.
yes.
There's a big one. This is
Overflowing.
straight from my journal. This is straight from my journal today. I wrote this before the news. Before the news was released. Right? I'm thinking we're gonna get a CPI miss. The last CPI number in July, when I was in Calgary, was 9.1% year over year. It had so much media attention, and with commodity prices lower than that since the last print, I have some typos because I write this quick, and was lowering prior to the print, so commodity prices. I think we're gonna get a miss. We're gonna get a miss on the yields, so yields go down. So miss means the CPI number that was released today. We're gonna get a miss on the CPI number. Yields go down and dollar goes down. Then I write here, let's see if I'm right. And then if we look at yields, right? This was when I wrote the journal entry right in here. And then this was after the CPI print. Right? So like in terms of predictions, yeah, like predicting a lot of this stuff because I'm following it so often, I'm able to kind of just anticipate what's going to happen. But the cool thing about yields and talking about bonds, right? So we all know what bonds are now after last week's presentation, is for the stock market to continue to go higher. Not necessarily, but if we really want the stock market to move or crypto to move, we want to see yields come down, or we want to see yields go up very slowly, or we want to see yields go sideways. The only thing that's going to knock this stock market down right now is if today, instead of getting a spike down like we did, we got a spike up. Right? And that never happened. So I think a lot of people are anticipating, oh, like real estate's going to get hit even harder. Prices are going to go down even more. Mortgage rates are going to go down, up even more. I don't know about that just yet, right? If anything, I think we've started the downtrend in yields, and we're coming back down to maybe like, I don't know, if you use the 200, the weekly time frame, you know, I think it's reasonable to say yields could come down to like the 200, the weekly moving average, which is back at like 2%, 1.5%, like anywhere in this area.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
right? So like a move of that magnitude, right? Like that could be pretty good for stocks, and that could be pretty good for crypto. And then the thing I'd want to watch after is are yields going to bottom here and then head higher? Right? Or are the yields going to continue to come down? If yields continue to come down, then we're going to get like a super strong stock market. We're talking new all-time highs on the stock market, new all-time highs on NASDAQ, probably new all-time highs on Bitcoin. If we just come down to about 2%, like 1.9%, so where all this cluster of scribble is, then maybe the stock market just goes to its previous all-time highs or close to its previous all-time highs. Right? And then you got to look, okay, are yields going to go up? And if they are going to go up, you want to be avoiding heavy investment contributions. You want to be thinking about selling stocks you don't really want to hold, right? Or you want to be reducing the amount that you're dollar cost averaging into these funds. Let's take it to, I just want to talk about the yields for a sec, because it was here, it was in this area here, where a lot of the market didn't think it was possible that yields would do what it did. The consensus was that yields would top out around the 200 period moving average on the weekly and then come down. And then once we did get that break in the yields, the consensus up here was that yields are going to head higher. Right? So it's like kind of looking against or going against the consensus, so to speak. And I called the bottom of yields right here. Like I remember posting about it last year in the summertime. And that was an indication for me that, probably Bitcoin was going to go down or real estate was going to start slowing. Tech stocks would slow. And that's what happened in 2021. Of the summer of 2021, that's when everything peaked.
Serge, I think we need to do more predictions. On here it's not enough every 2 weeks, but I know you do Facebook posts.
Right.
If you can put in all capitals prediction,
Right.
colon, and then make your prediction, then we can go back and see what your hit miss ratio is. See how accurate you are.
Yeah, we could. It would be easier to calculate. I think it would be, I think if we just watch the recordings, like in sequence, like very quickly, I think we can get a good idea of how accurate the predictions have been. But yeah, like taking on a system like that, I think is good because it helps me actually track the specific predictions or forecasts. But here was July 9th, 2021, when I said yields have bottomed. Right? That means home ownership in Canada and United States may get a lot more expensive. I had a feeling it would. Right? So, like staying abreast of all this stuff. Here we have Apple. I brought up Apple because like Apple's been outperforming the S&P 500.
Yeah, I don't see a huge decline. This is
Yeah, and
not
you know
taking
what?
the trend of a lot of tech stocks.
Right. It's not. It's
Yeah.
more resilient. And it looks like it's on its way to make like a new all-time high. If that happens, the S&P 500, I'm going to put that in the chart to my right. Let's put the S&P 500 here on the right. And then let's put Apple on the left. Got to make sure they're on the same time frames, right? So here I'm going to go to the daily time frame. Look at the S&P 500, my lad. Like lagging behind Apple.
Wow.
Right? Like you have Apple so close to its all-time highs. You can see how much closer it is to its all-time highs versus the S&P, right?
Okay. And why do you think that is? Like me personally, I look at some charts of Apple and I'm thinking, okay, I don't have any Apple products. I don't have their phone or laptop. But I think once you're in that world, it's almost like a necessity to have that today to conduct business and whatnot. So maybe they're just not really impacted by, like their sales aren't impacted by what's going on out in the world. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. Like, I don't know specifically the fundamentals. Like, I think it could be that, like, they're more recession proof. And, they got people are buying their product anyways through like phone contracts and payment plans and whatever, right? And then like people's parents, like if you're a teenager or if you're going to university, most like a lot of parents are buying their kids Apple products and stuff. So I think it's just a really good company. I think it's just saying like, hey, this is still a very good company. It's a strong company and it's a better company than the majority of the companies in the S&P 500 index. And because it's better than literally the majority, so more than 90% of the companies, then it's going to outperform the S&P 500 to the upside and maybe even outperform it to the downside. Let's see. So Apple dropped about 26% from its peak. Okay. The S&P 500 as a whole has dropped 24%.
Wow.
So the S&P has come down not as much as Apple has, but the rebound in Apple to the upside has been much higher than the rebound to the upside in the S&P 500. So it's good things to pay attention to. It's like, whoa, I have a tech stock called Apple. On the downside, it's not that much more volatile than 500 different stocks in the S&P 500. Maybe that's, good to own. Now, I wouldn't be buying it just because when I see things so stretched out from the 200 period moving average, I get nervous. Right. But it's been like that for a while.
And RSI as well. ever since you went over the RSI, I'm seeing more value in using that as a reference point.
Well, we had a good example on Bitcoin, how to use the RSI. Remember the weekly
Mhm.
chart on Bitcoin?
Yes, yes, I believe so. And now the Bitcoin's actually gone up a little bit since, when we said to buy in, which was dipping under 20,000 US. So we
Yeah.
can look at Bitcoin. I also want to look at oil before we get into the presentation about
Yeah,
oil today.
oh man, I called oil.
We'll
I made
take our time.
predictions,
We'll take our
made
time.
predictions on oil too, man. I
Yeah,
did. I
when was
really
this?
did.
When was this?
I did, man. Look at this.
Pull it up. Pull up the receipts,
Well,
Serge.
I'm gonna pull up some more receipts. See, post from you. 2021. Okay, this is me calling bullish commodities in 2020. But that's not what I want to look for. Okay, so here I started calling it out. May 2026. Commodities are back to where they were in 2018, 2015, and 2009. If this commodity bullish cycle is the real deal, we have to get above these levels and stay above. But who the hell wants more expensive commodities? So that was the topping. That's when things started to top.
Mhm.
Let me see here. Let's collapse. Collapse is the word I think I need to search. That's the sorry that I can't find it so quick, guys.
Oh, that's fine. We didn't have this planned.
But yeah, I'm gonna find it. Gold. You know what? You know what? You know what? But yeah, the RSI on Bitcoin, just while I pull this up, on the weekly time frame, it was showing that it was pretty much the cheapest that it's been since I think it was 2012. Okay, here it is. Don't be April 25th. Okay.
All I saw was gold up until here. Okay.
Don't be surprised at all if gold and other commodities crash April 25th.
Okay.
Okay. So let's pull up oil because oil is a commodity. And where's April? April 25th. Okay, so this is when I started quoting about oil and other commodities topping. Remember?
Mhm.
Well, here's the high. Here's the second high. And then we couldn't even make that high. So it was topping. And look, it's come back down ever since.
Wow.
So that's oil, which is a commodity. And in May, like April, May, I started really paying attention to it. Now on the left, actually, I'm going to just blow up. On the left, we have Bitcoin. And this is the RSI indicator here at the bottom, right?
Mhm.
And what I look at is I look to see how many times the RSI was at its lowest levels, right? So I can see there's one there,
recently. Mhm.
one there, again there, and then again back in 2012, right?
Mhm.
Can you see it? It's kind of small, but you should be able to see it.
Yep, I can see it. It looks like a rally after every time it dips that low. And this dip that just happened is the lowest.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
everyone's like scared of Bitcoin, saying like just scared in general, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's bearish. People have already lost money because they bought too high. So now they're like resigned at these levels. And then the people who don't believe in it just don't believe in it. So it doesn't matter. But for me, like what I saw is I have 200 period moving average on the weekly time frame, which is a very significant thing, right? I rather buy when if I'm long, I want to buy when the price is compressing with that moving average.
Mhm.
And then when it's far away, like you got to be prepared for a correction. And that can mean sell, that can mean hedge, that can mean do nothing, depending on what you want to do. Right? Like for me, I expected this move to come down, and it kind of sucks because I looked at my values. I was like, oh wow, like I used to have this amount of money in crypto, now I have this amount, and I kind of saw this coming, and it kind of sucks. But the plan was never to buy and sell. The plan was to just accumulate Bitcoin and just hold it as long as I can, right?
Mhm.
So for someone in that camp, it's like, okay, you want to hold for as long as you can. That's a good thing that you can do that. This looks like it's probably been the best time to get into Bitcoin from a relative strength index perspective. So relative strength, and we can talk more about that, since 2012.
Yeah.
Right. And other things line up with it. So you have the 200 period moving average, you have the RSI, you have like psychological round number of 20,000. Right? You have the previous high was about 19,000, 20,000, right? So you have these factors lining up, and then you have all the negative news and stuff, right?
Yeah, it seems like with Bitcoin more than anything, it's when the price goes down, everyone starts jumping ship. But the
Right.
people that are really going to stick around and use cryptocurrencies for utility, people with money that are traveling, like retail investors can jump ship. They stop getting money from the government, things get tightened, inflation's up, there's less money to go into Bitcoin. But I mean, if you're trying to move money from one country to another, and you have a lot of money, anything over 100,000, usually there's anti-money laundering questions. You want to go on a plane, you can't bring $10,000 cash without getting questioned. You want to go from one bank to another, they're going to ask questions. But Bitcoin, XRP, cryptocurrencies, it's quick, it's easy. There's no funny stuff you got to deal with. So it's still going to be used by a certain group of people.
Right.
And then once things kind of line up, and I think we're going to see that happen soon, there'll be a reason for it. There's going to be a better case for it. Then that's time for the price to go up. That's when people will want to come in, which is a little bit too late.
Yeah, it looks like it's going up from here.
Yes.
Now, it's not to say that it won't come back down, but like I think we do test this level here. And I have a purple line drawn, right? 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's the level where it's like, if we get above there, if buyers can take the price higher and then take us outside of, like, if we get outside of this orange channel and we start lingering above 30K, like very high probability that we just head higher. If this orange channel and this purple line act as resistance, right, then that was our bear market rally, and we got to get ready for like another leg down. And then I think if let's say that was the scenario that we do get the other leg down, I'm pretty sure like that would be the bottom and that would be it. And it's time to just buy and hold if you can.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm still like, it could be a bear market rally, make it really hard for people. Because a lot of retail investors, they'll see Bitcoin at 30,000. All the news will start getting positive around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
And that's when they're going to buy.
That's when they'll be like, oh, it's bullish. Like now it's time to get in, right? And then the traders who were buying here are going to sell to the people that buy here, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Smart money that bought here is going to sell to the people that bought here. Like I'm sure of it. Like, I don't know, like 80% sure that that's what's going to happen.
Gotcha. All right. After this, put out a prediction. Put out a Wealth Wednesday post.
I will.
Wealth Wednesday special on Facebook.
And let's just look at oil real quick because I know we're talking about oil today.
Yep. Very soon we're going to switch over and get into the presentation.
But oil is now cheaper than when Russia invaded Ukraine. Okay. The price of oil, which I think is pretty significant and was a signal to the market that things are going to get bullish, risk on.
So last I looked, like Russia's still selling oil to certain countries. I know Germany has put themselves in a weird position, being very reliant on importing Russian oil.
Right.
But how is Russia had any issues exporting their oil that you know of? No issues at all. Interesting. There's a big effort here in the Western world, Canada and the US, to say no. But that might not have really put a dent in them in them exporting it at all.
Yeah, I'd say like the sanctions, but the sanctions did like more harm than the actual war in terms of on the economy.
Okay.
But I just take your attention here to this is the daily time frame on oil.
Mhm.
You know, we're kind of calling the top of commodities and oil back in May, and here we are. And now it's like we just got below the 200 period moving average on the daily time frame. Not as significant as the weekly time frame,
Mhm.
but still rather significant. And price getting below there is saying that, hey, a bearish trend, just like yields, right? So think about this. Commodities coming down, yields coming down. What does that do for the stock market and Bitcoin?
Good.
Yeah, it's good because now commodities are less expensive. So we have more spending. We have more disposable income to invest and save, which is good for stock markets. So let's see how low,
Yes.
let's see if oil continues to go lower. We'll talk more about it today, but I can see us getting back into like 75, 65, and I can make that as I'll make that as another one of my predictions. Okay. I'll put it out.
Okay. And for oil, like if oil prices are high, is that really good for oil companies?
It's supposed to be.
If
If the cost of your inputs hasn't changed, and
Yeah.
the only thing that's changed is the price, I think that should be very good for you.
Yeah, but if prices have gone up, you have to go to a different source, or there's
Right.
more taxation. That's not good. So I think there's like a misconception of oil prices are high, it's good for oil companies. Oil prices are low, it's better for us. You know, you can have oil prices be lower, and the oil companies can profit as well.
I'd be down for that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think low gas and oil price is good for us, no matter like good for, it depends who you are, right? Good for consumers, right? If you're a producer and investor, like let's look at a stock just real quick, and then we're going to jump into the presentation. ExxonMobil,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't know, right? Like if you bought this stock as the price of gas was going up and you're paying more on the pump, you don't care so much because your portfolio saw that happen. Right. And if you look at Exxon, like Exxon really took off, guess when? When did Exxon start outperforming the market overall? Right here in 2021.
Okay. I
When
can't see
yields
what year
bottomed.
that is.
Oh yeah, this is all 2021 right here. This whole range is 2021.
Gotcha. And in 2020, when we saw oil prices crash, where is that on here?
It's
It doesn't
about,
look
this
like
is
it's good.
ExxonMobil stock. So
Yeah.
ExxonMobil hit a low of $30 in March. It double bottomed again in October 2020. That's called the double bottom right there. And it took off and never looked back since. And now you have the head and shoulders top. So you got the double bottom, which is a bottoming pattern. You got your rectangle, which is a bullish continuation pattern, right? Because a move up and then sideways action, that's bullish. And then now you have the head and shoulders pattern, right? So do you think the people that buy now, okay, the people buy, I'm just going to tell you, the people buying here are going to be the suckers that are buying from the people who are selling, from the buyers that got in here and from the buyers that got in here. And that's why this pattern's forming. And a lot of people, like, I was in a chat in the finance mastermind, you guys are in it. This guy was saying, I'm buying oil stocks. I told him, watch out for oil. If oil goes lower, like, you don't want to be in oil stocks. Oil stocks are actually topping while the growth stocks and the tech stocks were bottoming. Right? So this guy's buying what's topping and he's ignoring what's bottoming. And yeah, he'll probably face, like, this is most likely topped out here, and we're gonna head lower.
Wow.
All right, Matt, I'm gonna give it to you, and then we can talk more about commodities and oil and why it's important to understand. Or
Yep, let's dive into it here. I'm gonna have you pull up some charts as we go, but I can definitely share my screen.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing, and it's 11:34. We have another.
All right,
We got like 26 minutes. Another half of the session. We got.
Perfect. So perfect segue. Oil and commodities is what we're talking about today. There we go. So table of contents, we're going to talk about oil's huge market, sustainability around oil, products and ecosystems dependent on oil, and I didn't change that. Recycle, that's not supposed to be there. And oil and commodities. So what is a commodity, Sergio?
I think it says right there.
Basic good used in commerce that is interchangeable with other goods of the same type. When I think of commodities, I've always thought of precious metals immediately.
Yeah.
I've always thought of gold and silver. But when we look at the most traded, top three, two of the top three is crude oil. And we got steel. I wasn't expecting soybeans, gold and silver on there, but they're not near the top of the top 10. So I was definitely shocked by that. Oil's got a huge market, and the difference between Brent and WTI as the world's two major oil markets. Brent crude oil is extracted from the North Sea. WTI is extracted in the US primarily from Texas. There's always fighting between countries based on where we're getting oil from. US oil, Russian oil at one point, Saudi Arabian oil,
Right.
Canadian oil. It's one of those things where there's a bit of an oil war going on.
It's pretty much clear. It's like, okay, what are the most valuable commodities right now? And it's steel and oil. And for some reason now soybeans, right? Like the fact that soybeans is so high up there is a little worrisome, for me. But
Yeah,
the point is oil like matters, right? Like what happens in the oil market is impacts many other markets. And it's the most liquid market, right? So for trading, for speculating, for producers and like commodity producers to do their hedging, they use oil and oil futures. So very important market. And you want to not be an expert in oil, but like just understand kind of what happens if prices of oil go up? What happens if prices of oil go down, right? Like I think you should understand how that would impact your own personal economy, right?
100%. I think if we saw a 10% increase in the price of oil, the amount of inflation we'd see in daily goods would be it'd be very noticeable when it happens, right?
Exactly.
And that being said, like three natural resources that we need, steel, lumber, and oil. Canada has them all. I mean, we were blessed there. I don't know what's going on, why we don't have a huge exporting share in that, but yeah, we were blessed with some really good natural resources here in Canada.
Indeed.
All right. And I put together some products made from crude oil. Oil is seen as dirty. There's a green revolution right now, but when it comes to liquid gold, essentially, that you're pumping out of the ground, we don't know where you're going to buy it next. There's a whole lot of products that come from oil. You know what I mean? Crude oil gets pumped out of the ground. We get jet fuel, we get gasoline, diesel, propane, paraffin oil. We make petroleum jelly. We get asphalt, plastic water bottles. I hate plastic water bottles. I won't use them. Anything plastic, polyester to make shirts, any rubber, making footballs, and a lot of electrical components and circuit boards as well. So without oil, a lot of these industries that rely on these materials would be impacted. There is sort of a trickle down effect with the push to sort of move away from oil. There's a lot of, things that are going to happen to be substituted. That makes sense.
No, it does. It does. It's like we saw what happened when during COVID, right? Like when oil production stopped for a bit. And there was like supply chain issues and blah, blah, blah. It's like what happened? Like the price of all these things went down initially, but then as things started opening back up, demand started picking up, but supply couldn't pick up. And all the political stuff that impacted the price of oil that had a trickle effect and pretty much made everything more expensive.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're seeing is by using the government. We got the Green New Deal. Trudeau got rid of plastic straws wrapped in paper. Now you have paper straws wrapped in plastic.
Right.
We all feel good. I don't know how much it's doing. I'm not a scientist. No more plastic bags. The oil that was being used is sort of a byproduct. We're making gasoline. We got leftover things. What are we using it for if we're not making plastic? I personally don't like plastic. I think it's bad for the environment. It's bad for the body. But I just wonder what's going on. What are we going to substitute this with? It's really good. Hemp plastic is biodegradable, but that got sort of pushed into the corner by the government back in the day. And Tesla's making cars. They got these huge lithium mines. So now instead of mining for or digging for oil, we're mining for precious metals. Still hunting for something that's not going to be here forever. You know what I mean? Something that we have limited amounts of. So we're still,
unless there's like in
digging
the
into the earth.
space.
What's that? Oh, go into
Unless they
space.
find
Yeah.
space to find that's gonna happen. That's happening for sure.
Yeah, we probably, right.
Like-
Asteroids and whatnot have
Yeah.
precious metals on them that we can extract.
It's just who knows when, but we'll get to a point I think when that's happening.
Yes. And to convince businesses to abandon what we already have infrastructure for, which is oil. And instead of trying to drill for oil to fuel what we have, building new infrastructure and then mining for precious metals. It's very not cost effective. It has to be done through government. It has to be done through force, taxes, rules. There's got to be, we've seen with Paris Climate Accord, like international agreements. It's very messy. It's not going to be done in the free market. And it could be something that takes a bit of time. I mean, you buy a used car, you deal with some repairs and whatnot, and now the government wants you to go out and buy a Tesla, buy an electric car. Its tires are still rubber, still petroleum. You know what I mean? There's plastic on there.
Right.
It's not like it's oil free. You wouldn't be able to make the Tesla without oil. So we're in this transition phase where it's like you're going to buy a new car. You're going to buy a hybrid, you're going to buy an electric, you're going to buy a gas car. People don't really know what they're doing, how fast we're going to get there, what's going to happen. So there's a bit of uncertainty. But I'm worried that, cost of living is going to be increased as a factor.
Yeah,
And then,
I'm worried about that too.
Yeah, I threw this in there, hemp. Hemp is very interesting because it has so many uses. The roots, the stalk, the seeds, the leaves. I think the seed oil, it's very healthy. Yeah, I consume the seed oil. I don't like any other seed oils. I don't even do olive oil. That's how I kind of got thinking about it. The seeds, you can eat them. They're really healthy. But have you ever felt the shirts? They make shirts out of hemp.
I don't think I have actually, but that I would
No?
like to try. I'd like to.
They're super soft.
Yeah, they're
Nice.
soft. They're soft. They, it's, some people say it's better to use that instead of cotton, uses less water.
Right.
And it kind of seems like hemp is like this miracle plant, but being so closely related genetically to marijuana, it kind of went through these phases where during the war in the US, they had positive propaganda. They're paying farmers to grow hemp so that they could use it to make materials for the soldiers. And then later on, the US government said, oh, no, marijuana is really bad. We can't have hemp. I think it was Richard Nixon. It might have been a different president. Don't quote me on that. But he didn't want to have the oil companies be affected by hemp plastic and whatnot. So they actually helped the oil companies by making negative propaganda about hemp and marijuana. So it's kind of been through this, the same plant was being held in a positive limelight, then a negative limelight. But it could be something that really helps with, replacing all those things that fossil fuels used to make, and then there'll be a new market there, right?
Right.
Something new to invest in.
I wonder like if it'll ever make like the futures market, right? Because it's like hemp's not there.
Exactly. We see, I mean, soybeans are there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder, like soybeans are, they take a lot of water and a lot of earth to grow. And
Right.
like hemp is, I don't know plants. I'm not a scientist, like I said, but if I had a farm and I wanted to grow something to sell, to make else, it'd probably be hemp. I think if you have a certain amount of resources, you'd be getting more for hemp than for soybeans. And yeah, if it's easy to grow, I don't know. Maybe it's more profitable, less profitable, less infrastructure needed.
But
yeah.
hemp isn't going to replace oil. Hemp is like
No,
another
no, no, no.
commodity that can be
I'm thinking
complement or
the materials that we have, the plastic, the polyester shirts, I'm trying to think of what else. This can be used for insulation. Anything that we use oil byproducts for because they're leftovers,
Mhm.
and then sell that to the public, plastic, whatever. Without oil, we'll need to make those things out of something else. We
Gotcha.
use hemp.
Hemp could
And
be
it-
that substitute. I
and
understand.
the society could take it on and actually want to see it. And I don't know what the cost is. I think right now the shirts aren't cheap. Maybe there's not a lot of companies doing it. Maybe cotton's cheaper. I don't know, but there could be a shift there. Because if we're using another way of getting energy, and we'll talk about hydroelectric and other things in a minute here, then that would, we'd need somewhere else to make plastic from, right? We're going to see a no plastic future. I don't know how realistic that is. But obviously, regular plastic biodegrading into the atmosphere, not good. Hemp
Right.
plastic, much, much better.
Right.
And sustainability. If we're going to sustain this new ecosystem, this new, we're looking at the environment, we're looking at society, we're looking at economics. If we put the environment first, there might be this big shift where all of a sudden people can't afford to buy groceries. That would be terrible. Society would be outraged. And like we said, this is going to be pushed through as sort of a political agenda as well. If we took the free market approach, we'd probably never leave oil until we sucked it all out of the ground. There's none left. And if we look at society, I mean, some people, they take the hippie approach. They want to see the hemp shirts. And some people say, no, leave us alone. We want our oil. So it's kind of a balancing act between all of those. And when we're looking to invest in the market, we kind of have to jumble around and see what's happening, right? Like in Canada, we say hydro, pay the hydro bill. And people in the States think we're talking about water, but we're talking about electricity.
Right.
Because we had this idea that all our electricity comes from hydroelectric
Water.
electricity,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Some people think that Niagara Falls powers the entire country, but not really.
Right.
Is there anything you want to say on this, Serge? I put together this slide. I'm thinking, this is kind of how I see it. Environmental people talking, economic people talking, and society's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like those three are going to have to balance each other.
Mhm.
Right. At the end of the day, we saw what happens to the economy when we say no to oil. It doesn't work, right? The economy doesn't, you can't do it, right? So
we've built all these countries in this economy on oil.
Exactly.
How are we going to make that switch, right?
Right. So now it's like there was that ESG type stuff happening, right? Like the environmental social governance. And there's like, you see like even with IA or other investment companies, there's like ESG funds and like this and that, right? And it's more of like this society, like the thing about the economics, it's like it's very, I think, easy to measure. Whereas like the societal type of like impacts, whether they're negative or positive or more subjective.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, it's like, if there's demand for oil and if there's supply of oil and it's still profitable to run oil wells, then they're going to do it. And yeah, they're going to be cognizant of the environment and society, but like, they're not going to just stop economics because of environment and society, right? Like
Yeah.
I'd say the economics thing will probably outweigh the society and the environmental thing. And not as much anymore, right? Like, there's a lot of like environmental regulations, especially for mining, like for oil companies, mining companies, right? They got to do stuff, right? They can't just do whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
At least not in Canada or United States and other countries, but
It varies country to country, and it makes the cost more expensive. That's another thing. But I mean, if you
of
look at
course.
coal plants, they used to be very dirty, and now they're quite clean, to my understanding. And the smokestacks have all these filters, and there's chemical reactions happening inside of them that take what would be going off into the air, making it into a solid, and then using that as a resource in another industry. And then you see China, where it's just let it burn, whatever.
Yeah.
There's no regulation. So very interesting to see that. And yeah, if society wanted to get rid of oil, then everyone would probably be taking themselves off. You know what I mean? But you look at heating a house, HVAC, natural gas to heat a house is so much cheaper than electricity. The electricity has to come from somewhere, still mainly
Yeah.
using petroleum products. So really, really messy. But yeah, I think the shift, if it's going to happen, society's going to have a say, the government's going to have a say. And yeah, there's going to be some regulations, and things are going to be probably rough along the way, is my guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough transition.
Anything else to say there, or should I go to the next slide?
No, on to the next slide, my man.
All right. So Canada's energy sources. I realized this morning that I got this from a very pro-petroleum company. This, I believe, is from 2019. I found some different results trying to find a pie chart. I hope this one's the most accurate. Seeing it here, I was a little bit surprised. I was always thinking like hydro bills is, we have most of our energy from hydroelectric, but most of it's natural gas and petroleum. A decent portion is hydro and nuclear. I don't know if I've ever seen or noticed a nuclear power plant. And then a little bit is wind. I know when I'm driving up to like Flesherton Way, like Dundalk, Highway 10, there's all these wind farms there. And it always gets me thinking, like, who owns the wind farm? Who owns the land? This stuff has to be built. Sometimes they're spinning,
Maintained.
sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They break down, they got to be maintained. You know what I mean? Maybe one day you produce a lot of power, has to be stored somewhere, and the next day there is no power. So yeah, not a big demand for wind, it looks like, but then we don't have much coal production either. And we compare that to the US, more coal, definitely. There's certain areas of America where they have a good amount of high quality coal. They got petroleum and natural gas is huge. They have nuclear power as a decent little chunk, and then their wind is tiny, and their hydroelectric is 19% of 12%. So really not a lot of hydroelectric power at all, barely any geothermal. And then they got biomass burning wood. My guess is it's better to burn natural gas than wood, probably. I don't know. But that's under renewable because we can always get more trees. But yeah, I was definitely shocked by this. And areas where there's a lot of wind and hydroelectricity, there's gaps, there's blackouts where there's no power for times. So that's definitely going to be a hard point. That's what Germany's dealing with right now.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a when a country's so like reliant on another country for energy. Yeah, like there's the
Yeah, it was. I mean, we've been knowing this about Germany for a little while, even before the war. If people were paying attention, and then it just seemed like the war hit, and almost like Russia had a chokehold on Germany in a sense because of their energy dependent.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Let's get into gold. Let's get into gold. That's awesome.
yeah. So I want to talk about gold here briefly. I know we're mostly talking about oil, and I wanted to point out gold. You can really see the hit of inflation. The price of gold was relatively flat for a really long time, and then 1971, US dollar was, this is compared to US dollar, of course, US dollar was taken off of the gold standard, and ever since then, in the long term, the price of gold has been going up, but there's been periods where if you bought gold for like a decade or two, you're just going to be selling it at a
sideways.
loss. Yeah, sideways action, declines because of these spikes.
What was that year where it went up so quick? 2006?
Let me see here. Is it, you're looking down here?
Yeah, just that big spike. Like, yeah, that big move 400 to like 1700.
It's covered up here. I can't see it.
Okay, no, it looks like 2006, 2000.
Yeah, probably closer to 2008 actually, which makes a bit of sense. Looks like it's closer to 2008. If you want to pull it up on your end, we can always zoom in.
No, it's okay. I just was curious. It's okay. Just there's it's a big run up, but let's talk more about the fundamentals of gold.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a CFD contract for difference. I just found out CFDs are banned in the US.
Oh, really? Really?
I was like, wait, what? Canada allows them. A lot of countries allow them or have different rules just because of how it's categorized and classified. But apparently banned in the US. I was a little surprised by that. But gold seems to do very well when people are scared, don't want to hold cash, inflation's high, 2008 and around 2020 as well. Although it looks like it was leading up to 2020 that it kind of started to go up in price. And as there's more money out there, gold should, theoretically people say gold's sort of a safe haven for inflation, but the demand of it goes up and down like anything else, right?
And the supply.
And the supply, we find, it's cheaper to mine gold, but
yeah.
I mean, it's not like all of a sudden we find a massive amount of gold. I think there's less
but it could
spike in supply, but at any moment, yeah, we could all of a sudden come across, hey, one of those asteroids from space, Serge, we could find some gold in there.
Apparently I was listening to the Robert Kiyosaki podcast and these guys they found a gold mine in Utah, United States.
Yeah.
But it's like 600 feet underneath like down into the ground or something crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think he has a gold mining business, doesn't he?
Yeah, or he invests in them, or he partners up with other gold miners and stuff, right?
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, this guy they were doing a podcast from like 600 feet below ground, and they were saying like to construct these mines, like every like square foot in this mine is like $10,000 of cost. Like every step you take is like $10,000 of cost to build the. Like so far underneath the ground, right? It's nuts, but they found gold there. So the point is supply and demand dynamics. The thing with gold is the supply can change. It just doesn't, it's hard to find gold or to mine gold. So they say that the supply is very constant, but it's not guaranteed and it's not fixed.
Yes, this is true.
And the price is manipulated in the futures markets. All these commodities that trade on the futures markets, including oil.
What do you mean by that? Manipulated?
Like the price can be, like the price here that you're seeing here, 1797, right? The price that's trading at right now.
Mm-hmm.
That price can be based on futures buyers and sellers and not actual like real buyers and sellers.
Okay, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's more like the futures market participants that kind of decide price more so than like, people out in the real, like main street economy, like, buying, selling gold, etc. Right? It's mostly set by.
For sure, for sure. And we look at melt value. It's different. This is a CFD. It's easier to trade and profit off of this. Rather than a physical gold bar, you're going to pay more than this.
Right.
And depending on what market you're looking at, like you said, the price is going to be different.
Exactly.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we'll probably transition into talking more about currency. I see some people online. I don't know if it's a big movement. I see a lot of people calling to end the Fed. There's been a lot of anger towards the Federal Reserve. It's had me do some looking into who really controls it. And I think we should do another presentation around sort of inflation, the currency, Federal Reserve, Treasury. We'll have to do our research and dive into that. I think that'll be very, very useful for us to spend the time.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
Yeah. Comment, this will be on YouTube. Comment below. Let us know if you want to hear about that. What do you think about the Federal Reserve? Throw that in there.
Yeah, we might have to do a deep dive on that.
I think we will. Yeah, it might take us a little while to get that in the works. But yeah, that's Wealth Wednesday for today. We'll wrap up. I know it's about 12 o'clock here. It was a lot of fun. And Demetrios, do you have any questions or anything? I see a bunch of stuff in the chat. I haven't gotten to it. Anything you want to shout out and say right here?
No, I was just adding some useless information that I know as you're going on with your presentation that I thought was cool, because you're spot on with a lot of it.
Yeah, I just want to talk about just the pact between Russia and like I think Brazil and I don't know, right? But I know
India, the BRICS.
Pretty much the
right?
BRICS.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
BRICS.
they're coming together and saying, yeah, like, hey, we could create our own currency to trade amongst each other, pretty much. Trade rubles or trade the yuan, we'll back it by gold, whatever, right? Like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Demetrios, what are your thoughts on that? What do you see happening there?
In all honesty, I think it's going to force the hand for the West, who is trying to transition to a baseless currency, more electronic. When there's something physical there, and I know this sounds bad because like we're on this side, I obviously don't want anything bad happening to us, but when it's based electronically, well, it just takes a couple of cyber attacks to kind of, move things around and cause ruckus. Whereas if it's physical, you just kind of keep an inventory on it. It's a lot easier to protect something physical than it is something digital nowadays.
True.
Yeah, I can see us being more energy independent, and I don't think it's a huge movement for a central bank digital currency with the people. A lot of people don't even understand how that would work, but we already have fiat, and that's sort of one step away. I see a lot of cases for currency that's backed by, an actual asset that can't be inflated. But maybe I'm being one-sided, and there's some advantages to a fiat currency. Maybe it's helped us out in the past. I don't know. I haven't looked at that. But I think in the long run, to have one currency stick around, like gold's been around for how long? How long has the US dollar been around? And now what's it worth, right? So I think over the long run, physical is the way to go. But maybe there's some pros that we haven't been looking at, being negative. Who knows?
Yeah, let's see. We could talk about these things, right? Like, examine them a little bit more.
Yeah,
it's good to know, right? It's kind of
go down the rabbit holes.
Yeah, like it's good to know what if they did create that currency, right? Like, what would that mean for my currency, or what would that mean for stocks or Bitcoin, right? Or what would that mean for investing in those countries who have put that, like, created that agreement, right? Like, it opens up a bunch of stuff. So I think it's good to talk about.
I agree. And have you guys, I just heard about this the other day. I don't know, maybe it's common knowledge. Have you heard about some of the ghost cities that are in China?
Yes.
Yeah.
Overbuilt.
Okay.
Yeah.
They overbuilt like crazy. They had buildings going up insanely quick, not enough
Right.
people. And I think we need to get some of those in Canada, bring our house prices down. Instead, we got like 8 families in one house. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's too
I want
expensive.
what like their space. I think their population per square kilometer is pretty high, and yet they're able to have a crazy amount of houses and a bunch of supply. And then here it's difficult and expensive to get a house built. So another topic I want to dive into is housing. Got me thinking. So housing, currency, we'll dive into that.
Yeah, I think it's bad to lower housing prices.
I think it's bad to lower housing prices. What do you mean?
So when things get expensive, like rather than making them cheaper, I believe creating or removing policies. So really analyzing what's really at fault is the best way to go, because there's usually a block somewhere that's creating that bottleneck of a problem. So when you have housing going too high, well, what's wrong? Like you said, there's a lack of houses, a lack of selection. Housing is becoming rare. Well, why? When we look at building material now, that's going up. People are willing to invest in less and stuff like that. So we gotta find a way to make materials once again more
Cheaper.
Abundant.
I wouldn't say cheaper. I wouldn't say making things cheaper. I would say, because I don't believe in lowering the cost of things. Somewhere then some people are going to suffer, but I believe in allowing people access to it. So making it more accessible. So like, for example, we had this massive increase in housing and then this massive increase of minimum wage.
Mhm.
I think the two combined are just awful together, because you have this whole middle class of people now who didn't get a raise. If anything, the poor caught up to them and things just got out of their reach. So they
Yeah.
took several steps back when that happened. I think that's what happens when you lower prices or give people.
That's what happens when you
handouts
give
that,
people money. Not so much lower prices. It's when you like lowering prices is a good thing. Like you should, I think if you should strive to maintain quality and figure out how to lower your price, because that means you've innovated your production, right? So I don't think that's a problem. I think the problem is when there's handouts or there's money that has been created without any production backing it,
Right.
where we have
Then all the
problems.
things suffer. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Then everything suffers, right? Because if you look at the refrigerators of the 1950s to refrigerators today, one
Yes.
would argue people back in the 50s were more technologically advanced with refrigerators. But that's what happens when you scale things back to make more, I guess, more economic sense for people.
Right.
But when you think about it, people have actually gotten richer since the 50s, like more wealthier, not they haven't exactly lost currency or value.
Exactly. Very cool. All right, guys, I gotta hop off. It was a pleasure. I'm going to upload this recording shortly. I'll send it to you, Matthew, and then we'll have people watch the
Perfect.
recording. I think they're gonna enjoy this one.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it.
Have a good
Sure.
one, guys. Bye.
Have a great
Take
one.
care.
Bye.